Nigel, nice to see you, mate.
Good evening. Yeah, great to be here.
All right. I have heard constantly discussions on your program in the UK and lots of others about a thing called Insulate Britain. Is this like the Extinction Rebellion people, or is it a splinter group offer that's even more extreme? What the hell is it? And because there'll inevitably be an Insulate Australia, so let's all teach everyone tonight.
Yeah, they're a spin-off from Extinction Rebellion. The guy that set up Extinction has set up Insulate. And Insulate Britain want us to make sure that our roofs and our houses are all insulated so that we use less energy. And their tactics are to stop the traffic on major roads around this country, to, in many cases, glue themselves to the roads. And after a period of time, the police come along and they unglue them, and they take them away. They're briefly taken to a police station, then they're released. So much so that one person was arrested 5 times in 10 days. And they're doing this on some of the UK's busiest roads. They have caused accidents. They have stopped ambulances from getting to hospital. Their leader, Mr. Hallam, said that even if it was an emergency, if an ambulance had to get to a hospital as an emergency, they would still block its path. And because of that, I've been looking at the law, and I think this actually qualifies as an act of terrorism. Taking action that can lead to somebody else losing their life is an act of terrorism. They're now threatening to, in some way, disrupt COP26, which of course is going on in just a few weeks' time. And they are proper, full-on, nut-job alarmists. And the most depressing thing is they found a new champion, somebody who sympathises with their point of view. And I regret to say it is the heir to the throne, Prince Charles, who understands their frustrations. Well, I've got to tell you, the vast majority of the public don't. We're absolutely furious with them. They're stopping people getting to work. They're stopping people going to funerals. They're stopping people going to hospital, catching flights, and all the rest of it. And they really, we need to clamp down on these people and put them in prison. It's just as simple as that.
Here is part of what Nigel was mentioning about ambulances being stopped by these lunatics. Have a look.
She's in the ambulance. She's going to the hospital in Canterbury. Do you think I'm stupid? She's in Canterbury. I need to go to the hospital. Please, make it worse. Please. How can you be so selfish? This is so selfish. 5 minutes is all I'm saying. You don't misunderstand it. My mum is 81 and she's going to the hospital.
And Nigel, that's frightening. That supposedly people who care, who want to sort of suggest that their compassion is on steroids compared to the evil knuckle draggers like you or I, but they literally do not budge about the life of a woman who may well completely agree with them in the back of the ambulance.
Yeah, they don't care about anything. I mean, look, this is a consequence of an education system that for a couple of decades and a mainstream media that have spread alarmism. The idea, and it was the United Nations first said this back in 1989, the idea that we're all going to die very, very soon, that we're drinking in the last chance saloon, that unless we act immediately, give up our cars and all go and live in caves, that billions will be wiped off the earth, billions will die. And this is the alarmism that has spread. And we see, of course, a teenage girl from Sweden, Greta, who stands up before leaders all over the world, a girl who looks very disturbed and very upset. And this is a consequence of one-sided propaganda. It's a consequence of not having a proper debate about these issues. Given we've got 7.5 billion people on the planet, are we having some effect on our environment? Well, obviously.
Of course.
But are there other factors like sunspot activity, volcanic activity? We need to have a more rational, reasoned, balanced debate. And the irony that Insulate Britain are doing it in this country, well, I tell you what they should do, go to Beijing and do it. Because Beijing is by far the world's biggest polluter and biggest producer now of carbon dioxide. This country, we only produce 1% of global CO2 emissions, so the whole thing is ridiculous. And I've had enough, because I was caught in one of those protests I was trapped for about an hour and a half behind one of those protests on the road, and I think I can speak for the vast majority. We've had enough of this selfish, stupid behaviour.
Well, they don't even have to go to China. Have the balls to go to the Chinese embassy in London. Block that off. Say no access to any of the people that live in coming and going. We're going to deny them their movement back and forth. But instead, they want to live in the modernity and then whinge about how modernity gets created. They want to live in the society that's only possible in 2021 because of all of the sacrifices of many generations before, only to turn around and drop proverbial on them.
Yeah, there's also, Paul, a big class issue here. So overnight, it turns out that one of the women who's repeatedly being stopped, her husband is a big boss, ironically, in the transport industry. I mean, you couldn't make some of this stuff up. And they live in of course, they live in a very nice £1.5 million house in London. And one of the other protesters goes and stays there. I mean, this is generally white upper middle class types that get involved. You know, they're racked with guilt about themselves and about the world and have to show their virtue. And the people paying the price are ordinary, decent, working people. And it's just a disgrace. It really is. I mean, rather than protesting, they should be cheering Boris Johnson. I mean, Boris Johnson has said he wants to turn our islands into the Saudi Arabia of wind.
No.
Well, that isn't working out very well because almost unbelievably, in 2021, we are now having a debate about whether the lights will go out this winter. I mean, can you believe it? We've relied on wind energy here to such an extent. We've taxed every single person's home bill with green subsidy. We've given billions to rich landowners to put these ghastly machines on their land or overseas wind turbine companies. And that's all well and good until the wind doesn't blow. And guess what? When the wind doesn't blow, you've got a problem. So you have to burn natural gas. But because we're so environmentalist here, we've decided not to frack for natural gas on our mainland, even though we've got 50 years' worth of reserves. And at any minute, our reliance on the French for 10% of our electricity, at any minute, the French, and I'm not saying they will, but the French could turn off the tap or we get a major power station outage and we're down now to just 4% spare capacity. If one big power station, if one big power plant goes down with, a fire or one of those things that could happen, you could see us with the lights going out in the middle of February. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Well done, Boris. Isn't going green terrific?
Maybe he wants to be the Saudi Arabia of wind, and maybe that's because of the freedom of speech consequences of being the Saudi Arabia of free speech in the next little while. If that's the case, till then, let's keep talking. Thank you, Nigel. Nice to talk to you.
Thank you.
Good man. Nigel Farage, of course, you can find him online. We'll make sure all of his socials and links to his shows are up on our page, and he'll join us every Tuesday night for some straight talk from the UK.